What comes into your head when you think of Colombia? If these images popped up, you're in for a surprise. When I first told my family that I will move to Colombia, they just told me, don't take drugs and don't get abducted by the mafia. When I spoke to some of my friends, they were literally surprised that there exist fancy shopping centers here in Colombia. And when the outside world talks about Colombian music, which I love, they only see beautiful but half-naked and operated cheap women with huge booties. Drugs, plastic women, poverty, dangerous people, and underdeveloped cities. This is not Colombia. Colombia has a lot to offer the world. You will see. Hola Bessie, I'm Laura, or Laura, a German who chose Colombia as her home. I've been living in Bogota, the capital of Colombia, or Bogotham, how I like to call it, for more than 5 years. And I want to share my journey and experience of this loud, chaotic, artistic, diverse, intense and rich country with the world. Colombia es una chimba, créame. By the way, on this channel we speak Spanish. So why do I love Colombia so much? And why should everyone? Let me give you 3 reasons. Almost every single Colombian always asks me, what do you like about Colombia? ¿Por qué Colombia? ¿Por qué te gusta acá? The answer is easy. The Colombians. Colombians are very kind, open and warm people. Where I come from, Germany, the culture is a little bit more closed up, a little bit more cold. Here the people smile a lot more. I think that's true for every Latino. When I walk in the streets, I just really greet everyone, even if I don't know them, and they greet me. It's so nice, and they just smile at you. Hola vecino, ¿qué más? Hola. And at the beginning I was like, who is that? Doesn't matter. And if you're out and about in the city, you can literally ask anyone for directions, and they're really nice and really kind to you. ¿Dónde queda eso? Por allá. Yeah, they don't do this. They do this. I love that. And when you take a taxi, you can just have a chat with the taxi drivers. It's the coolest thing ever.
Oh, señor, suelta la gasolina. ¿Usted cree que no me volvió a hablar de ese tema?
No te van a regalar nada.
No.
Normally they ask me where I'm from, why I'm here, what I'm doing, what I think about Colombia. And we just have a nice conversation. But in Germany, when you start talking to a taxi driver, they just look at you like, don't talk to me. And also if I just go into a little tienda, into a little store, I can stay there forever because I can just start to chat about whatever I want with the owner or with the people I meet there. And they open their homes. Like how many times I've been invited to eat with someone, to eat with a Colombian family, to have a tinto, un cafecito, to just chat and to just get to know each other. I think that's awesome. And that is where comes in the importance of the family. For Colombians, the family is the most important thing in the world. And I don't think it's not like that in the more developed world. But let's be honest, it's a bit more an individualistic culture there. Here really, the family gatherings are legendary. With my Colombian family, it's like that. Every Sunday, it's holy. We get together, we eat together. When you go and visit the mom or the grandma, there's always a lot of food and tinto. So in my Colombian family, there's a grandma. She's 96 years old. And her birthday is the 1st of January. And on 1st of January, we all go and gather in the finca outside of Bogota, and we celebrate her birthday. And she is so alive, she has her 10 children, around her, and she dances and she chats and she eats. She really just becomes alive because of all her children and their partners around her. Colombians are very humble. I personally learned here in Colombia to be more humble. Europeans, normally because we come from a more privileged kind of lifestyle, we have a high standard now for everything, for food, for cleanliness, for how our houses are built, for education, whatever. So we come to a little bit less developed country and we judge. And we look at them from above. So that happened to me at the beginning, and it happens to a lot of friends from Europe that come here. Unconsciously or consciously, they start to judge and kind of think that they're better. So once we went to a restaurant with some friends from the Netherlands. It was a really nice restaurant, but the food was not the best in the end. My friends from Holland were really angry at that, you know. They had to wait a long time for the food, and the food was not so delicious and a bit cold. So they were furious. And they called the waiter, and they were really angry with him and said they want to talk to his boss, and they're not going to give any propina, any tip. And my Colombian friends just looked at me, and I'm like, ooh, qué pena, qué pena. They need to be a little bit more humble, you know. These things can happen, and Colombians are really much more chilled with that. They prefer to actually not say anything, and they just don't come back to the restaurant. Colombians are super faithful. That is something I'm super grateful actually for, what I learned here. I mean, I always had a connection to the divine. I grew up as an atheist. I don't consider myself religious, but I believe in a higher power. I believe in the universe, in love, whatever you want to call it, God. It doesn't matter, I think, the word you use. But Colombians have a really strong faith. And it's something super beautiful because first it makes them more humble. It makes them to be more grateful for what they have. And if something bad happens to them or something doesn't go their way, they just have a lot of hope. They're really hopeful for the future. So there's a lot of people out there, a lot of Colombians that have a hard life, but their faith helps them to keep going, to keep hoping, and to be really kind and nice to the people around them. And one thing I love is bendiciones. That happened to me a lot, that people I don't even know, they give me the bendiciones, the blessings. They give a lot of blessings to everyone. And I think that's super beautiful. Now we should bless everyone and all the time. It's a really nice thing to do. And Colombians are hard workers. I mean, they're hard workers everywhere in the world, but the mentality Colombians have is just something I really look up to. It's because of necessity, I understand that they have to sometimes work 2, 3, 4 jobs, and they are retired and they still have to work because they don't get enough money. But still their mindset is very different than to the European, because the people in the first world countries are way more comfortable. If they don't have work, the government helps them out. And if they have work or earn the minimum wage, they usually can survive. Here it's not so easy. First of all, they don't get help from the government. And second of all, the minimum wage really doesn't cover anything. But what we in the world can learn from that is just to have that mentality of working, you know, of working hard, of putting in effort to getting something, and of not stopping until you reached your goal. Hello. Hello, Quetzal. I really admired it about Colombians. And Colombians are way more relaxed. The one sentence I still hear most from my friends is, relájate, Laura, relájate. Relax, relax. I come from a culture where we overplan things, and therefore if something doesn't go our way, we stress very easily. That is something I learned here, to be way more flexible, way more chilled about how the day goes, way more open, because anything can happen. Just because you plan your whole week, month, year, many of my German friends do that, doesn't mean it's gonna happen like that. And if it doesn't happen like that, it's fine. It makes your life way more easy, and you don't stress about every little thing that doesn't happen according to plan. Reason number 2 is definitely the nature. Colombia is just blessed. Colombia is the richest country I know. Yeah, what? Isn't Colombia a third world developing country? It is developing, but I don't mean the economy. I mean its resources. Colombia is so incredibly rich in natural resources. It has a lot of minerals like gold, coal, silver, salt, and many more, as well as petroleum, which everyone wants these days. And the country has the most mining areas per surface area in the world. And it's the largest exporter of, guess what, coffee, bananas, and flowers. And what I find super fascinating, I come from a country where we have 4 seasons. So naturally, we don't have all the food all the time. But here in Colombia, all year around, you have all the fruits and vegetables you can imagine. Just when I go into the little store, the little fruit store around the corner, there's an abundance of fruits and vegetables there. Tropical fruits all year round, every single day of the week. There exists over 1,000 species of fruits here in Colombia. 1,000. So I haven't even tried 1% of those, I think. So we in the developed first world countries think we have a lot of things because we import everything from countries like Colombia, where the avocados and mangoes just grow naturally on a tree next door. And by the way, the fruits and veggies here taste so much different. If you eat a papaya in Germany, it's like this big and it's green. It doesn't taste like anything. Same for pineapples or mangoes or any tropical imported fruit, by the way. And when you eat them here, they're huge, like the avocados. Oh, heaven. And they're just rich and sweet, and I need a piece of fruit. Talking about fresh, I am a huge fan of Colombian food. Maybe you don't really have an idea of what Colombian food, traditional food really is, but they have so many different plates and foods. A lot of corn they use in their food. I really love that they prefer to cook from scratch. Here this is still very much in the culture that you don't just get takeaway or go to a restaurant or buy something already ready. Like we have a lot of packaged food in Germany, for example. Here it's just very common to make homemade food from scratch every single day. And if you don't have time, actually, when you go to a restaurant, you can eat a corrientazo or a menú del día, a menu of the day. Rico. Rico. And that is homemade food, exactly like that. So it's potatoes with some meat and some salad, a soup, a fresh juice, some fruits. And the last beautiful thing about Colombia, talking about nature, that Colombia literally has all the climates and all the vegetations you can think of. So there's the ocean, the Pacific and the Caribbean Ocean. There's desert. There's the rainforest, obviously. There are the high mountains. So you can find every kind of climate, from cold to dry to really tropical. And you can even find snow in the high parts of the mountains. What I always find really fascinating is that in Bogota the climate is kind of weird, and one day you can get heat and 2 hours later it rains and it's really cold. But if you just take a bus or a car and drive 1.5 or 2 hours outside of Bogota, in one direction you find really cold mountains, and on the other direction it is literally hot summer climate and you can jump into the pool. How cool is that? And the third main reason why I love Colombia is that the tradition here is alive and breathing. Where I come from, sadly, our tradition has kind of been destroyed. So it is not very present. We don't have any tribes or elders that are just there and you can visit and you can remember how it was 1,000, 2,000 or longer years ago. And the people are not really connected to their tradition. Living here, I got to know the Colombian tradition in a very deep and profound way. So there still exists more than 102 indigenous groups in Colombia. I personally have visited a few tribes. I got to know a few elders, abuelos y abuelas, that still work with the traditional medicine, that still wear their traditional clothes, they follow their traditional dances, they eat their traditional food. It is a beautiful thing to experience. And sitting down with those elders, just listening to their life advice is mind-blowing, is life-changing. It is something that we as humans have been doing for centuries, sitting down with the elders and listening to their advice and following their advice and experience. But in the modern world, let's be honest, who does that? We just forget about our elders and think the youth is the shining stars of the society. But really, the elders have the wisdom with which we, the young people, can advance in a real way. And I can't really put it into words, but what I learned and what I'm still learning from these traditions, from these elders, is how to be a better person and how to live a better life. It is simple, it's not complicated, but we have forgotten it. And their connection, their deep connection still to their roots, to the nature. Nowadays, there's a lot of spiritual movements, but they are not connected to the root. That's why I think we need those elders. to remind us and to help us on that path to rediscover and reconnect with our root and to reconnect with the nature and to realize that we're in the city, yeah, but what's underneath the city? Earth. Like we are in nature all the time, but we've forgotten about it. And also their medicine and their plant medicine is something that just opened my whole mind. I've seen a lot of people that healed from severe diseases with this medicine without the need of any chemicals, without the need of any surgeries. So there's a lot of treasure there. I am so grateful to be able to access and to receive here in Colombia and to kind of bring a little piece of that home so we can find our connection to our tradition again too. So what do you think about Colombia now? I really hope to be a positive advocate for Colombia to the outside world and their own people, to the Colombians if necessary. And I'm not saying everything is perfect here. Oh no, it is not. For sure not. But in my opinion, Colombia deserves some good press for change. So bendiciones y nos vemos muy pronto, Bessie. Muchas gracias. Alemana colombiana out. Now I'm gonna eat some fruits, really.